Welcome to the Story of America. Hello, my friends. Today, we are going to take a long and exciting journey through the history of the United States of America. This lesson is made for listening and speaking practice, so I will keep it clear, interesting, and easy to follow. By the end of this story, you will understand how America began, who lived there first, and how the country grew. You will understand the struggles it faced, the people who changed it, and why it became one of the most powerful nations in the world. So let us begin with a big question. How did the story of America start? Who discovered America? To answer that, we must go back very far in time. Around 15,000 years ago, long before famous explorers came from Europe, Native American tribes were already living on this land. They were the first people to call America home. Their ancestors traveled from Asia to North America across a land bridge during ancient times. Over many generations, they built communities across forests, deserts, mountains, and plains. These native peoples lived in close connection with nature. They hunted animals, gathered food, grew crops, and created their own traditions, languages, and cultures. Each tribe was different, with its own way of life, beliefs, and skills. So when we talk about the beginning of America, we must remember that its story started with them. But the story of America that many people learn in school usually begins in 1492. That was the year Christopher Columbus sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. Columbus was an explorer from Italy, but his journey was paid for by the rulers of Spain, King Ferdinand, and Queen Isabella. He was searching for a new route to Asia. Instead, he arrived in the Americas. Columbus believed he had reached India, so he called the native people Indians. Today, we know that was a mistake. Even so, his voyage changed history because it brought more European attention to the lands across the ocean. Still, Columbus was not the first European to reach North America. Nearly 500 years earlier, Viking explorers led by Leif Erikson arrived in what is now Canada. But their settlements did not last. They did not lead to long-term European expansion. That is why Columbus is often remembered as the explorer who opened the door between Europe and the Americas. After Columbus, many more explorers crossed the ocean. Spain, France, England, and other European countries sent ships to claim land in the New World. Spain focused mainly on Central and South America, where explorers found rich sources of gold and silver. France and England turned their attention to North America and began building settlements there. The arrival of Europeans changed everything. They brought new animals, foods, tools, and technologies. But they also brought diseases. Native Americans had no protection against illnesses like smallpox, and many died. This caused great suffering and changed native communities forever. The relationship between settlers and native peoples became very difficult, painful, and often violent. In 1607, England created its first permanent colony in America. It was called Jamestown, and it was built in Virginia. Life there was extremely hard. The settlers faced hunger, disease, cold weather, and poor planning. Many died in the early years. But the colony survived, and it became the start of permanent English settlement in North America. After Jamestown, more colonies were founded. More Europeans came to America, hoping for land, freedom, and a better future. One of the best-known groups was the Pilgrims. In 1620, they sailed from England on a ship called the Mayflower. They came because they wanted religious freedom. They did not want the government to control how they worshipped. They landed in the area that is now Massachusetts. Their first winter was very hard, and many of them died. Native Americans helped the survivors by teaching them how to grow food and live on the land. Later, the settlers and native people shared a meal together. This event became remembered as the first Thanksgiving. By the 1700s, America had become a place of hope for many people in Europe. They saw it as a land where they could find freedom, land, and new opportunities. But this new beginning was not peaceful or simple. European countries were still competing for power in North America. England, France, and Spain all wanted control of different lands. At that time, there were 13 British colonies along the eastern coast of North America. These colonies later became the first part of the United States. The 13 colonies are often grouped into 3 regions. The first region was New England. Colonies like Massachusetts and Connecticut were part of this area. These colonies had forests, fishing, shipbuilding, and small farms. People often lived in towns where communities worked closely together. The second region was the Middle Colonies. These included places like New York and Pennsylvania. This area produced a large amount of wheat and grain, so it became known as the breadbasket. The Middle Colonies were also known for cultural and religious diversity. Many different kinds of people lived there. The third region was the Southern Colonies. These included Virginia and Georgia. In the South, there were large plantations where crops such as tobacco, rice, and cotton were grown. These plantations made a lot of money, but much of the hard work was done by enslaved Africans. This became one of the darkest and cruelest parts of American history. Life in the colonies was full of hard work. Families built homes, grew food, and survived difficult winters. Children helped on farms and in the house. Most people had to work every day just to live. Schools were not common, and many children never learned to read or write. Yet people still came because they believed America offered opportunities they could not find in Europe. Some colonies also became places of religious freedom. Pennsylvania, for example, welcomed people from many faiths. For many settlers, America was a place to start again. Even though the colonies were far away from Europe, they were still under British control. The King of England, George III, and the British government made laws for the colonies. The colonists had to pay taxes, but they had no representatives in the British government. This made them angry. They began using the famous phrase, "no taxation without representation." What did that mean? It meant they did not think it was fair to pay taxes to a government that did not allow them to help make the laws. One famous protest happened in 1773 in Boston. Colonists were angry about taxes on tea. So a group of them dressed like Native Americans climbed onto British ships and threw boxes of tea into the harbor. This event became known as the Boston Tea Party. As tensions grew, many colonists began to think that they should rule themselves. They wanted freedom from British control. In 1775, war began between Britain and the colonies. This was the American Revolution. The colonies had important leaders during this time. George Washington became the commander of the American Army. Thomas Jefferson was another important figure. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, one of the most famous documents in history. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence announced that the colonies were no longer part of Britain. It said that all people had rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This was a bold and dangerous step because Britain was one of the strongest powers in the world. The war was long and difficult. The British Army was large, trained, and well supplied. The American forces were made up of farmers, workers, and ordinary men with little military experience. But they had a powerful reason to fight. They believed in freedom and independence. The Americans also received help from France. France sent soldiers, ships, and weapons. This support made a big difference. After years of fighting, the Americans won a major victory at Yorktown, Virginia in 1781. Then, in 1783, Britain officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. The United States had been born. After the war, the new country needed a system of government. Its leaders created the Constitution, a document that explained how the nation should be governed. In 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States. This new nation was built on ideas like freedom, democracy, and equality. But there was a serious problem. These values did not apply equally to everyone. Women, Native Americans, and enslaved people did not have the same rights as white men. So although the country spoke about liberty, true equality was still very far away. After independence, the United States was still small. It had only 13 states along the East Coast. But Americans wanted more land. They looked west and saw great possibilities. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson made one of the most important deals in American history. He bought a huge area of land from France in an agreement called the Louisiana Purchase. This purchase doubled the size of the United States. The land stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. Jefferson wanted to know more about this vast region, so he sent Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to explore it. On their journey, they were helped by Sacagawea, a Native American woman who guided and supported them. Together, they traveled across rivers, mountains, and plains, mapped the land, and met many Native American tribes. As more people moved west, many Americans began to believe that expanding across the continent was their natural right and future. This idea became known as Manifest Destiny. Families packed their belongings into covered wagons and traveled long distances looking for land and opportunity. The journey was dangerous. They faced storms, illness, wild animals, and rough land. But westward expansion came with a terrible cost. Native American tribes were forced off their lands. Many were pushed onto reservations. Their communities were broken apart, and their way of life changed forever. For Native peoples, westward expansion often meant loss, suffering, and violence. At the same time, the American economy was growing, especially in the South. Southern plantations made huge profits from crops like cotton and tobacco, but this success depended on slavery. Millions of Africans had been captured, forced onto ships, and brought to America under terrible conditions. On arrival, they were sold and treated as property. Slavery was a brutal system. Enslaved men, women, and children worked long hours, often under the hot sun, and had no freedom. Families were separated. They had no legal rights. Their lives were controlled by others. By the middle of the 1800s, the nation was deeply divided over slavery. In the North, many people believed slavery was morally wrong and should end. Northern states had more factories and small farms, so they did not depend on enslaved labor in the same way. In the South, plantation owners believed slavery was necessary for their economy. They argued that their farms and wealth could not survive without it. The disagreement became stronger and stronger. It was not just a political issue. It shaped how people lived, worked, and saw the future of the country. Many brave people fought against slavery. These people were called abolitionists. One famous abolitionist was Harriet Tubman. She escaped slavery and later helped many others escape too. She became a leader in the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses and people who guided enslaved people to freedom. Another powerful voice was Frederick Douglass. He had also escaped slavery. He became a writer and speaker who told the truth about the cruelty of slavery. His words changed many minds. Books helped too. Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, a novel that showed the human pain caused by slavery. The book had a strong effect on readers in the North and helped build support against slavery. By the 1860s, the nation was close to breaking apart. Southern states wanted to keep slavery. Northern states wanted to stop its spread. In 1861, several Southern states left the United States and formed their own government, called the Confederacy. This began the Civil War. The Civil War was about slavery, but it was also about the future of the nation. Would the United States remain one country, or would it split into two? President Abraham Lincoln led the North. He believed the Union must stay together, and he also came to see the end of slavery as a necessary goal. The Civil War lasted from 1861 to 1865. It was one of the bloodiest periods in American history. Huge battles took place. Towns were destroyed. Families were divided. Soldiers suffered and died in large numbers. In 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It declared that enslaved people in the Confederate States were free. This did not end slavery everywhere immediately, but it changed the meaning of the war. It became a fight not only for union, but also for freedom. In 1865, the North won the war. The Southern states returned to the Union, and slavery was officially ended through the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. This was a major turning point, but freedom did not mean equality. African Americans were no longer enslaved, but they still faced racism, violence, poverty, and unfair laws. The years after the war were called Reconstruction. During this time, the country tried to rebuild. New laws were passed to protect African Americans. The 14th Amendment gave them citizenship. The 15th Amendment gave African American men the right to vote. For a short time, Black Americans voted, held office, opened schools, and built stronger communities. But there was a strong reaction against these changes. Many white Southerners opposed equal rights. They created Jim Crow laws to keep Black Americans separate and unequal. So Reconstruction brought both progress and disappointment. It was the beginning of a long fight for civil rights that would continue for generations. In the late 1800s, the United States went through another huge change. This period is called the Industrial Revolution. Machines, factories, and new inventions transformed the country. Instead of working only on farms, many people moved into cities. There, they worked in factories, steel mills, railroad companies, and other industries. Electricity became more common, thanks to inventors like Thomas Edison. It lit homes and powered machines. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, which changed communication forever. Railroads spread across the country, connecting east and west and making travel and trade much easier. These inventions helped America grow rich and powerful. But life for workers was often hard. Factory employees worked long hours in dangerous conditions for very low pay. Many workers were immigrants who had come to America hoping for a better future. During the late 1800s and early 1900s, millions of immigrants came from Europe, Asia, and other parts of the world. Many entered through Ellis Island in New York. There, they were checked for health problems and legal permission before entering the country. These immigrants played a huge role in building America. They worked in mines, factories, railroads, and cities. They helped the economy grow. At the same time, many faced poverty, discrimination, and difficult living conditions. Even so, they held on to the idea of the American dream, the belief that hard work could lead to success and a better life. The government also encouraged settlement in the West. Through the Homestead Act, many people received free land if they agreed to live on it and farm it. This helped create new farms, towns, and railroads across the western part of the country. But once again, Native Americans suffered. More land was taken from them. More tribes were forced onto reservations. In battles like Little Bighorn, leaders such as Sitting Bull resisted the United States and fought to defend their people and traditions. By the early 1900s, America had become one of the biggest and richest countries in the world. Its factories produced goods for international markets. Its military power also increased. One important event in this rise was the Spanish-American War in 1898. The United States supported Cuba in its struggle against Spain. After winning the war, America gained control of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. This marked the beginning of America's growing influence overseas. Yet many ordinary workers were still struggling. Factory work was often unsafe, and even children were made to work in some places. To demand change, workers formed unions. These groups fought for better wages, shorter hours, and safer workplaces. Leaders like Eugene V. Debs became important voices for labor rights. A tragic event in 1911, called the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire, showed how dangerous factory work could be. Many workers, most of them women, died because the building was unsafe. The disaster led to stronger workplace safety laws. African Americans also continued fighting for justice. Leaders such as Booker T. Washington and W.E. Du Bois had different ideas about the best path forward. Washington focused on education, patience, and economic progress. Du Bois argued that African Americans should demand full rights immediately. Both men influenced the future struggle for equality. In 1914, World War I began in Europe. At first, the United States stayed out of the conflict, but in 1917, it joined the war on the side of Britain, France, and their allies. America's entry helped strengthen the Allied side. When the war ended in 1918, President Woodrow Wilson supported the League of Nations, an early international organization meant to help prevent future wars. In the 1920s, America entered a lively and modern period called the Roaring Twenties. Jazz music became popular. Cities expanded. New ideas, styles, and technologies changed everyday life. Women won the right to vote through the 19th Amendment. At the same time, many African Americans moved from the South to the North during the Great Migration, hoping for better jobs and safer lives. Still, racism and segregation continued. Then, everything changed. In 1929, the stock market crashed. Businesses failed. Banks closed. People lost their savings. Millions of Americans lost their jobs. Families struggled to buy food, pay rent, and survive. This terrible time became known as the Great Depression. It was the worst economic crisis in American history. Many people waited in bread lines for free food. Others lost their homes and lived in poverty. In 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt became president. People called him FDR. He introduced the New Deal, a series of programs designed to help the nation recover. The government created jobs building roads, schools, bridges, and public projects. Social Security was created to support elderly people and others in need. New laws helped banks, farms, and workers. Roosevelt also spoke to the country through his fireside chats, radio talks that explained his plans in simple language and gave people hope. But while America was trying to recover, danger was growing overseas. In Europe, Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany were expanding aggressively. In Asia, Japan was invading other countries. World War II began in 1939, but the United States stayed out at first. Then, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack shocked the nation. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Soon after, it also entered the war against Germany and their allies. During the war, Americans united in a huge national effort. Factories stopped making many normal products and began producing military supplies. Women entered jobs that men had left to join the army. Rosie the Riveter became a symbol of strong working women during the war. In 1944, American and Allied troops landed in Normandy, France, on D-Day. This was a major turning point in Europe. In 1945, Germany surrendered. Later that year, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Japan then surrendered, and World War II ended. After the war, the United States became one of the strongest countries on Earth. Its economy was powerful, and its military strength was unmatched. Then began the Cold War. The world was now divided mainly between the United States and the Soviet Union, also called the USSR. The United States supported democracy and capitalism. The Soviet Union supported communism. This conflict was called Cold because the two powers did not fight each other directly in a major war. Instead, they competed through politics, science, military power, and influence around the world. One part of this competition was the space race. The United States and the Soviet Union both wanted to lead in space exploration. In 1969, America became the first country to land astronauts on the moon. Another dangerous moment came in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, very close to the United States. The world feared nuclear war, but after tense negotiations, the crisis ended peacefully. In Europe, the Berlin Wall became a symbol of Cold War division. It separated East Berlin, controlled by communists, from West Berlin, which was democratic. Even while America was becoming stronger in the world, it still faced major problems at home, especially racism and inequality. African Americans continued fighting for civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled in Brown v. Board of Education that school segregation was unconstitutional. In 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Her act of courage helped begin the Montgomery bus boycott. In 1963, more than 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C., where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. The civil rights movement led to important legal changes. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 banned many forms of discrimination. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 protected voting rights, especially for African Americans in the South. By the 1970s and 1980s, America was a global leader in science, technology, business, and culture. But it continued to shape the modern world. So why is America so powerful today? One reason is its diverse population. People from all over the world have moved there and brought new skills, ideas, languages, and traditions. Another reason is its economy. The United States has been a leader in business, education, and innovation for many years. A third reason is military power. America has one of the most advanced armed forces in the world. And a fourth reason is culture. American movies, music, television, fashion, and technology have influenced people everywhere. Now let us move to the modern era. Today, the United States is known as one of the most influential countries on earth. Its economy is among the largest in the world. Companies like Apple, Google, and Tesla are known for technology and innovation. The country also has strong military power, with global alliances and bases in many places. In world politics, the United States works with other countries on issues like security, trade, and climate change. American culture is also famous around the world. Hollywood movies are watched in many countries. Music stars such as Michael Jackson, Beyoncé, and Taylor Swift have global influence. American-style food, including hamburgers, pizza, and fried chicken, is popular almost everywhere. One of America's greatest strengths is its diversity. People from many different backgrounds live there. They bring their own foods, languages, traditions, and ideas. This creates a rich mix of cultures. America celebrates this diversity in national holidays, local festivals, and community events. America is often called the land of opportunity. Many people believe they can build a better future there through hard work. This idea is called the American dream. Immigrants continue to come hoping for safety, education, jobs, and a new beginning. Their success stories inspire many people around the world. Still, America faces serious challenges. Racism has not fully disappeared. The struggle for equality continues. Income inequality is another major issue. Some people have great wealth, while others struggle to pay for housing, food, and health care. Medical treatment can be very expensive, and many people worry about the cost of seeing a doctor or buying medicine. The country also faces environmental problems. America is trying to reduce pollution and increase the use of cleaner energy such as solar and wind power. But this is not easy. Political divisions are also strong. Americans often disagree deeply about how to solve the nation's problems. Even so, the United States still plays a major role in world affairs. American scientists and engineers work on solutions for disease, climate change, and space travel. Universities such as Harvard and MIT attract students from around the world. The country also sends aid to places affected by war, disasters, and crises. America's future is still full of possibilities. Young people are working to improve society. They care about fairness, the environment, technology, and human rights. From artificial intelligence to space exploration, America continues to help shape the future. Why does America inspire so many people? One reason is freedom. Many admire the freedoms found there, such as the freedom to speak, worship, and dream. Another reason is resilience. America has faced wars, economic crises, social conflict, and deep division, but it has continued to move forward. A third reason is innovation. The country has a strong ability to invent, create, and imagine new possibilities. America is not perfect. No country is. But it is a nation shaped by hope, struggle, hard work, and big dreams. Its history teaches us that progress often comes through difficulty, and that diversity can make a country stronger. And now we come to the end of this journey through the history of America. From the first Native American peoples to European explorers, From the 13 colonies to independence, from slavery and civil war to civil rights and modern power, America's story is full of courage, conflict, change, and ambition. The country has transformed many times. It grew from a collection of colonies into a new republic, from a divided nation into a global power. But its story is not finished. The future of America is still being written by the people who live there, people who continue to dream, work, invent, and fight for a better tomorrow. The world often looks to America for leadership, creativity, and hope. Young people today are trying to improve the future by standing for equality, protecting the environment, and building new technologies. As new problems appear, America will need the same determination and energy that helped build it in the first place. America remains a place where many believe dreams can come true, no matter where a person starts. Its history reminds us that with courage, hope, and hard work, great change is possible. The future of America is still open, still growing, and full of possibility. And like its past, it will be shaped by the people who choose to build something better.